Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Triad podcast. I'm your host, Emo Tempest, and I know it's been a while, but we're back today. But unfortunately, we only have two of the Triad today. Andy Carmona, the ex-Manderville man.
Howdy ho, everybody.
And Albert couldn't make it today, but we do have Mathew Okimotto, one of the founding members of MetaPotion here with us. Mathew, or Okimotto, say hi.
What's up, everyone? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure. I'm glad you could make it. We got a lot of interesting things to talk about today, guys. Okimotto here is going to talk a little bit about how Seattle went, the Seattle Crystal Cup. We also want to talk about, I guess, preparing for nationals, like what decks we should be testing for. I also want to say, I don't know, and I also want to have a discussion about breaking backups. Like, we only have a few effects that do that and stuff, and there's a lot of effects that do that on their own, and they have benefits from it, so I want to touch that. And we're also going to address slow playing today. Just want to give our opinions on it, and maybe we'll talk about, if we have enough time, we'll talk about those new monster spoilers. So Okimotto, why don't you start us off? Why don't you tell us how the Crystal Cup went?
All right. So Seattle, I left with Brian Berkeley, who is the guy who actually ended up winning.
Yeah.
And Patrick, who he placed top 4 at the sealed event at Gen Con.
Yeah.
And we left Friday morning at like 3 a.m. Our flight was like 5, so we left pretty early. And then we took that flight. It was a quick, like 2.5-hour flight. And then we landed, and basically Patrick knocked out. And Brian and I were like, all right, what are we going to run? Because we have no idea what we were going to run for the Crystal Cup. And we were like, well, I ran Ice Earth for an LQ in one, and the deck seemed pretty good. But we're like, man, everyone knows about it now, so like, whatever, let's not run it. And then the more we thought about it, we're like, okay, well, even if everyone knows about it, they still have to beat us playing it. So
that's how I feel too.
we're like, whatever. And it's like, most people probably looked at it and were like, dang, that's a sampler platter full of backups. Dex probably sucks, and he got lucky. So, yeah, let's just ignore it. That's what we assumed. And it was kind of true. Like, most of the day at Seattle, for both Brian and I, everyone picked up all of our cards and was like, what does this do? What does this do?
Wow.
It's kind of interesting to feel like they didn't know what those cards did, but that was pretty interesting. But I'll continue back on Friday. So Friday, he was pretty wanting to play Wind Earth, and I was like, nah, man, that deck's boring. You're not going to have fun. Let me get you off of it. So he busted it out. I threw a bunch of decks against him, and we went 50-50, so I didn't do like a great job of getting him off of it. But eventually I was like, all right, fine, screw it. I'll just play whatever you're playing. And that's when we landed on the Ice Earth deck. Before, it had a few other random cards in it before it got to the final build. And I was actually talking to Joshua Freeman Birch a lot, and a few other people like Joe and Max and Rice about potential cards for the deck. And then before we ended up on the final build, most of it was just moving around backups. And we ended on a bunch of one-ofs, which felt fine, honestly. But I know people will probably complain about consistency issues, but it's nice to have a variety of backups as long as you know which matchups you need them in.
Of course, yeah. You would eventually pitch out and like save space for the ones that you need, so that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and so that was Friday, and then Saturday we showed up, and it was pretty cool. The venue was kind of small, but it wasn't full, so like it felt small, but it was fine. It wasn't too hot or stuffy and stuff like that. But the Edamame Arcade channel people were there. I don't know if you guys know about them.
Yeah, I follow them. You've helped them. I think you helped them out once, right? Created deck.
Yeah, I helped. They visited SoCal once, and we did a little random interview, and I helped them with the deck. But so they were there, and I think they were interviewing a few people of the community. I think they interviewed Brian after he won, so there'll probably be some video of them up in the future. And then Yamaguchi-san was there with Kageyama-san. I don't think you guys met Yamaguchi-san, but he was the winner in the chapter series. So
oh, really?
Kageyama always praises him as being this really good player, and he's really good. Don't get me wrong, I played against him. He's good. So, but if you guys ever get to meet him, you should definitely play a few games against him.
I'd love to.
I think when I was there, he was playing Wind Lightning. Basically typical Wind Lightning with Cypher and Fusion and all that stuff.
Oh.
Nothing too crazy, but I didn't get to see what else they were playing. I know Kageyama played the mono water deck you guys probably saw on stream.
I didn't get a chance to watch all of the stream. I might have missed it, honestly.
It's basically mono water with dark cards like Dark Emperor and Artemisian, and I don't think there was the Elmark, but there was like the 5 CP Emperor, Camlanaut. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Just basically went wide, Cloud of Darkness, did water things, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Saturday was fun. I won't go into all my matchups, but
so tell me, what was your toughest matchup then, at least?
On Saturday, my toughest matchup was Water Ice. That was the guy who actually went undefeated in Swiss. He was my only loss on that day. And then other than that, most of them were fine. I played like 2 or 3 Wind Earths. I played 1 FF2 Fire Wind. I played Brian. I think it was round 4 we played each other. I drew a little bit better than him, so I got the win on that. And yeah, there was like a lot of Wind Earth, a lot of Scions, but I ended up dodging Scions day 1.
Was that like important for you, like to dodge Scions? Like how was the matchup for you with them?
I don't think it's that bad. It's not. It's hard. It's hard. It really depends how they start. Like if they start with their Dream Opener, right, where they have like 3 or 4 sign backups, including Alisei, and after turn 3 they can just play a sign and hit you every turn. Like that's rough.
Mm-hmm.
But we have cards like Hecaton Chariot that can break Alisei. But almost all the Scion decks that we ran into were running Minor, so like didn't really matter because they would just Minor it back and then play it again the next turn. Like it did slow them down, but it didn't really hinder their strategy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to dodge it because Scions could sometimes just get there. I think there was a handful of Turbo, but none of the Turbo discard decks made the top 16 cut. I don't know if it was the pilots or if
just bad draws.
They got unlucky. Yeah, but yeah, I think there was one that was potentially going to make top 16, but they lost their last round.
Wow. Yeah, I was actually surprised to see that there wasn't any Turbo. I wonder how the community takes that really like. It's like, is it less threatening now because it didn't do anything, or is it just like a location thing? Like no one plays it over there, maybe.
I think it was a location thing because there was a ton of mono lightning and Scions, which I don't think we saw that at Gen Con.
No.
We saw more Turbo and Water Ice at Gen Con. So I think it was just a location thing.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. So I guess you said you made you played an FFTA2 deck. Like, was that the most surprising thing you saw out there on the weekend?
Yeah, I think for the most part, I walked around the tables too. I didn't see anything too crazy. The FF2 deck wasn't like Devin's deck. It was literally Firewind FF2. Like I thought he was playing Devin's deck. So like, okay, he's gonna shed Totemi and like all this stuff I was playing around. But like halfway through his deck, I was like, all he's been playing is Firewind cards. So there's no way he's Devin's deck.
Was the Sid 2 thing in there too?
Yeah, he ran Sid 2. He ran Sid 2, and as soon as he dropped Kaituna, I was like, all right, you're definitely not Devin's deck.
Wow, okay. And then Berkeley won the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I'm going to give him crap because so like on day 2, he had pretty decent matchups. Like so top 16 and top 8 were Mono Lightning, and that's pretty easy matchup for the deck because like one Vanille. Vanille, like Mono Lightning has a hard time killing Vanille over and over and over again. Number 2, he played a Heroic Lulu Mono Lightning, which is even harder for it's harder for them to beat Ice Earth because not only do they have to deal with Vanille, but they have to deal with their Heroic Lulu getting Hecaton shared. So, well, not to take away from him, he did play good, but I hate you, Brian.
And what happened to you? What did you lose to at the end?
So I played Wind Earth round 1, and I beat that deck 2-0. And then I played against Scions in the top 8, and it was Azul who ended up being second. So I won game 1, and then game 2 he had a sick opener, and I couldn't cover too much. I was too behind. And then game 3 was pretty even game 3. And then there was one play. Oh god. Oh, okay, I'm sure you've heard about it by now. Maybe. Okay, so we got the deck list, so I knew Azul had 2 EX Burst Titan in his deck, right?
Okay.
So one was in the break zone, he had 1 left in his deck, and he had roughly 30 cards left in his deck. He had 1 card in hand, and I was like, all right. His board was Yida and Papalima. Yida was like a 10k or something, and I had a Nidhogg in play. So I was like, all right, if I attack and I don't hit the EX Burst Titan, I can Renoa my Nidhogg, get rid of Yida, and the last card in his hand, and have like take control of the game. And I was at like 4 damage, he was at 3, so I was gonna put him to 4. And I was like, if I risk that hit, I'm like super ahead. But I wish I thought more at the time. Is like, do I even need to risk that hit? Like, do I need to risk that 1 point of damage to hit like the 1 in 30, or do I just play tighter and play it smarter and just Renoa my Nidhogg and build better board presence? Because that's not taking a risk at all, right? I can just do that and like answer his board and the card in his hand and just take control of the game at that point, instead of risking that 1 damage, risking that out, and then losing the game. So like hindsight's 2020, but I definitely should have played tighter and just Renoa my Nidhogg, and then I most likely would have proceeded to win the game at that point because I'd be pretty ahead. But long story short, I was greedy and attacked and hit his EX Burst Titan, which then killed my Nidhogg. So because of that, I lost the game, because that was my way of killing. That was how I was killing Yida, was Renoing my Nidhogg. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So for those listening, that just goes to show it's like you have options, and sometimes you just gotta go with, you're gonna pick one. It might not always be the right one. It might not always be the best one, but you gotta go for what you believe in at the time, I guess.
Yeah, like thinking back on it, I definitely should have just not attacked. Like, people were arguing like, wow, it's variance and it's a 1 in 30, blah blah blah. But like, I didn't even need to risk that 1 in 30, right? I could have just played it smarter and built up board presence and been fine,
Yeah.
Like sure, it's a 1 in 30, but I didn't need to risk it,
Yeah. And how many events does this make for you? How many Crystal Cups did you go to, actually?
I went to Boston, and then I commentated Kansas. I missed what's the one that Sam won? Kansas? I think it was Kansas. I missed that one. I played in the SoCal one and scrubbed out. I played Wind Earth there, and I just played pretty bad all day. Like, I didn't deserve to top that day. I played pretty bad. And then what was after that? Oh, Gen Con, I think, right? Was after that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so went to Gen Con, saw you guys there. It was super fun. And the sealed event, I got 10th, and then I lost to Devin in the top 8 on the constructed. And then Seattle, where I got 8th.
Wow.
The top 8.
Man, you've had quite a circuit this year. Like, you went to a lot of them. I would have loved to have gone to at least one more, but it just wasn't in the cards for us.
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate.
But I think that's a good transition to the next topic. I do want to talk about preparing for Nats. So we've gone to a couple events. Like, for those listening, you guys know Andy and I went to Boston and Gen Con. You heard Okimotto went to a bunch. And so after everything we've gone through already, I'm going to ask you first, Okimotto, what do you think, like, aside from, excessive playtesting and, like, getting your deck right, or what you're going to play finally, what are the top decks that we should be preparing for Nationals? Like, in your opinion, obviously.
I'm probably going to sound like a broken record, because probably, in my opinion, what most people are also thinking is, one, you got to prepare for Turbo, right? Because of the way that the format Nationals is set up, doing well in Swiss matters extremely, like a lot. If you go undefeated in Swiss, you get that bye to the top 16, which means at worst you get 9th place, right?
Yeah.
Which is really good. And Turbo is like a really sick Swiss deck, because if people don't know you're on Turbo, they don't know the right hand to keep, and some decks just can't handle that deck without knowing that they're playing against it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's just a 6 Swiss deck. So like, I think probably prepare for that. Obviously Wind Earth, because that's just probably one of the best decks to play at Nationals. It's super well rounded. So make sure you can beat that deck. Those are the top 2. The next third one is Scions. I believe that deck is very aggressive. It's proactive. If you go to a big tournament, it's definitely in your favor to play a proactive deck. So those are like the top 3. You want 5?
Yeah, if you can get there.
Let's see. Probably some water deck.
Some water? Any mono water?
Because it could be mono water, wind water, ice water, whatever.
Okay.
I think you need to prepare for something like that. Like definitely like Ice Water Vikings, for example, right? There's probably a deck that'll be there. Mono Water just won German Nationals. That deck will probably be there, and stuff like that. And then Probably Tempo Ice or Mono Lightning would be like the fifth one.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say, is Lightning not even on your radar?
Damn.
Yeah,
I mean, Andy needs to win an event with Mono Lightnings for me to respect it, right? If Andy can't win with it, then come on. I'm just kidding.
Well, Andy's won a couple events. Let's not take away from that.
With that deck, and then just go to a big event and like just come short. You know, this guy's knocked me out 2 events on Mono Lightning, so he doesn't fear it.
You guys, nothing. Okimotto knocked you out in 2 events.
Yeah. But that's what I've been doing. That's how I play him. See, I've got my invite. I've got that. So by the time we sit, across from each other, he's gonna know what I'm playing, but he's still not gonna know what I'm playing.
Let's just make sure it's in the top 8, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, again, like he was saying, he might know what you're playing, but he still got to beat you. Remember,
I think that's something a lot of players don't realize, right? People are like, "Oh, I got to bring this deck that no one's seen to a tournament, and because I can't let people know what I'm playing." It's like the deck's good. Like Winter's good. You could tell someone you're playing Wind Earth, and they still have to beat you. Like the deck is just good, right?
Yep.
Like and the way I see it is, in the top 16, they're going to know your list card for card. Or top 32. I would imagine for Nats top 32, they're going to give lists. Yeah. So, like, top 32, your opponent's going to know your deck. If you can't beat them with your knowing your deck, you're probably running the wrong deck, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, Mono Lightning is there. Mono Lightning's like the boogeyman of, like, I'm just consistent. I do good lightning things. You got to respect me. But unless Andy wins with me, you don't have to worry about it too much.
All right.
I've been trying all sorts of different ways to just make that deck like really innovative, but it's a very simple deck when you really break it down. It does kind of like one thing very well, removal. But it's I don't know. For me, it's still kind of like a safe choice because it's all I know.
Nah, man, you know more than that. Come on.
It's not all you know. It's what you know best.
I know how the decks play, yeah, but it's a different like feeling when you're behind the deck. Like if I'm piloting Lightning and I'm playing against something else, like I like that role. Now, if I'm piloting something else against Lightning, that role's a little weird because it's like, okay, I know what that deck can do, but what do I do with this deck that I'm playing with that I don't have much experience with? That does change the mentality.
I do want to say something too. Like when it comes to like the top 5 meta decks for Nats, I think that should only play like a small role in like how you prepare for Nats, right? I think if you play a deck that you're comfortable with and you have reps with, even if it's not a meta deck, I say you should just run that deck because you're gonna have fun, right? If you're having fun, you're gonna play well. If you're not having fun, you're going to be miserable, and one loss is going to put you on tilt, and they're going to be like, man, why did I run this deck? I could be having fun playing another deck, and just all downhill from there. But if you play a fun deck and you lose one, you're like, okay, that sucks. What did I do wrong? Let me fix it the next one. But because you're having fun, right? Like having fun, you will play better than if you're not having fun.
That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, why don't you tell us your top 5 picks?
Well, I kind of have a little bit of a different theory. I mean, I do want to piggyback off of Okimotto here and let you know that the decks don't play such a huge role in it. It is, at the end of the day, it's the pilot and all. But to be honest, I feel like what you got to concentrate on is what decks are doing well now, but what is going to be tweaked to where it pushes that deck in that favor throughout Nats. So you could take Earth Wind and figure out maybe, okay, what's like a spicy tech that might be put in here, because now you gotta like really detail it, go into the nitty gritty of a deck and figure out, okay, what would they want to change or add one of to kind of like make this a little bit better. So I feel like now it's like you kind of know how every deck pilots, but what are the things that maybe somebody wants to abuse in a deck that hasn't been used before? You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other than that, throw Mono Lightning somewhere in there in the top 5.
Well, that's fair. All right. Well, I guess then for me, I guess it would definitely have to say I'm actually going to put Ice Water above all of the other ones. I feel like that one, especially when you played it. I think it was at Gen Con, right? You had the triple Nidhogg's.
No one's done triple Nidhogg since Gen Con.
You're right, and I don't. I think it's funny that you did that, and like I totally respect you for it. I wouldn't do that myself. But
the goal at Nats right now, it's still a goal, it's still a dream, is to Mandeville dance and Nidhogg off the top deck.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. I have the text from Kageyama that says if I do that, I win Nats.
Dang.
Straight up.
You can manipulate your deck to make that happen, you know.
It's a long way to do it, but there is a way of doing it. You just, it's gotta be like the last card in your deck, and I don't know, some ice is involved. It's something.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it later. After this might be the Nats. This is all right. I retract everything I said about the stupid top 5 list. Hildebrand and Nidhogg. That's what you gotta watch out for. If you start seeing some weird stuff happening, and then all of a sudden, man, like Hildebrand just comes out of nowhere, and then they S twice, and there's 2 of them. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Man, imagine with that.
You gotta watch out for it.
No, but you could do that. You can definitely do that in the future, like with the new what's it called, the Yule card, the one that lets you put one under the top card of your deck, and just make sure you have.
The old one lets you already like see the top one and then put it back. You just run the risk of losing the top 10 cards of your deck if they bust it with a Hecaton. No, wait, she's a 2-cost.
Yeah, they have to archer it or set her off.
Yeah, they can archer it. But yeah, it's going to be a thing soon, I believe.
That's the thing. It has yet to be done, but once there's put a card on the top of your deck, that's it. It's over. This game, whole nother level.
Yeah.
I let John finish his top 5.
Actually, thanks for that. So I'm gonna say water ice first is definitely by far the most important one. Me personally, I'm not scared of Turbo. I've never been scared of Turbo, but I am gonna put Wind, Earth, and Scions in the top 3. Those decks just perform well a lot and very often. But I am gonna leave Mono Lightning up in 4th, and for the same reason Andy plays it. Like, it's very it's not only comfortable for a lot of players, but it does it well, and that's why it performs so well all the time. So you have to be like, if you're playing a deck and you never beat Mono Lightning, then I don't know, maybe you should also consider
running a different deck,
or at least making some changes, because you've got to be prepared. Like, I don't have a problem with Lightning because Ash exists, and Ash is a good card. But if your deck doesn't have some, if you're not playing water or you're not playing Ash, and then you definitely have to have something in store for them, or have a way to deal with Zemus, or be ready when you get outsided and stuff like that, because those things have been happening for such a long time and so consistently that I feel like definitely there's going to be enough Lightning at Nats to worry about.
I have another deck to add to top 5.
Okay.
Yeah, my list just changed right now. So I'm going to put, so whatever we just talked about with the whole Nidhogg thing, that's still number 1. Number 2 deck list is Jordan Dank. Yeah, that's my number 2 deck.
Jordan Dank is your number 2 deck. Whatever he's playing, watch out.
No, just him in general. He's just number 2. I mean, he's number 1 still for me, but like number 2 then is like, it's still, you get it. It feels. Yeah.
And the last one I'll finish out my list with is actually going to be... you mentioned him. What was his name again? Devin's deck, the FF2 deck. I feel like we didn't see enough of that. We got caught off guard by it at Gen Con, and we still haven't seen enough of it at like any other event. But it's gonna catch on. Like, I think people are like just saving it for Nats because it's gonna be so interesting. Like, it's because it's different. It's off key, and that's what's gonna tip the favor for it at Nationals. So I definitely don't see any monsters. I can't predict any monsters making an appearance in like top 16 or 32 at Nats.
Why do you say that though? Why do you think that?
Well, because personally we've noted. I don't know if you guys would agree with me, but monsters has kind of fallen off, altogether. I
don't think it has been explored enough.
But isn't that what people want you to think?
Yeah, and I agree. But the problem,
and then they all show up with a sick monster deck at Nationals, and we're like, oh, there's no monster removal.
So the problem with that is again, Lightning, and Lightning has an answer for it. And it didn't have that answer before, which is what changes things. But it's also the ice discard thing. And you would agree that everyone's always like, ice disc, ice turbo or whatever is something annoying, but both of those very annoying cards, or decks altogether, just kind of push monsters out of the way. And I don't know. That's just how I feel. If anyone's planning on playing monsters and ads, prove me wrong, please. and then come on here and then talk shit in my like description.
I think it might be a better choice to take it, because look at lists nowadays. A lot of them aren't running Emperor, and that used to be like, oh, run Emperor because monsters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think Scions was the boogeyman that pushed monsters. It was like the needle that pushed them out, because being able to reoccur dragon against monsters is rough.
But not everyone plays the dragon. I also think that the aggressive tempo that Scions can put change monsters need time to set up, and Scions doesn't let it do that either. So.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, yeah, not everybody plays Scions correctly because they're not playing the dragon.
I mean, I test against the dragon version. I don't
know, man. I'm still hoping someone will be put in Adamantoise and just with Fury Anger, and then play the Rabans, the old Rabans as well.
Or 3-color Scions?
So, no, just how some people put the Layak in there for the Urianger play anyway.
So literally the only way you're getting back playing it is Urianger.
Yeah. Or the Shantoto, obviously, if you have it active at some point.
Yeah, some builds don't even run Shantoto.
Which I find strange already.
Yeah, I think if you're running Alice, your dudes have haste, you probably should run Shantoto, because you could just set up a turn where you Shantoto and then play haste dudes.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
But, yeah.
My list actually
let's just pretend I didn't say that.
My list was using, was it the Ice Coral from Opus 6?
Oh, Militesi! Oh!
Yeah,
yo, it's so good, man. Because it's like, okay, once you have it out, it's like you don't really have to commit any CP to its activation, and it's gonna dole at something anyways. Sweet. So I've got kind of like a immortal Amon on my side. It's pretty dope. I don't know. It's a pretty good card.
Yeah,
I like that card.
It definitely should see more play. But I think we covered plenty of decks. You did mention earlier that you do play the Hecatoncheir Okimotto. So I want to talk about breaking backups. I feel like that's something that we don't see enough of, considering we only have 4 cards, right? Sephiroth, Hecaton, Archer, and what's the other one? Is there another one, or is it only 3?
What, Sephiroth?
No, yeah, said Sephiroth, Hecaton.
There's 2 Sephiroth.
Oh, there's 2 Sephiroth. That's what it is. That's the second one.
You didn't mention the second one. You only mentioned the first one.
Right, yeah. So there's 2 Sephiroths,
Sephiroths,
and then Hecatoncheir and Archer. How viable do you guys? How important do you think it is? I come from we come from playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and backup removal or trap removal. Destroying spell and traps in the back row is always very important. But I don't feel like people prioritize that a lot here because we don't have many options. What do you guys think about it?
You want Andy? Or?
Oh, Andy. Yeah, Andy. Why don't you take the lead on this one?
Well, I don't know. I see its benefits, but you see the restrictions that they give those cards anyways with Archer and Hecatoncheir. Like, the CP cost has to be a certain range in order for it to break it. Excuse me, I just ate a piece of chocolate. It's delicious. It's a sweet podcast. I thought might as well bring some chocolate into this.
I thought you were eating a Snickers so you can be yourself again.
Oh.
Oh, man. But, I mean, it's something that I guess a lot of people aren't taking into consideration, but when you start actually applying it, it starts hindering a lot of the decks that are being played right now. Like you guys, for example, the Scions, you break Elise, you don't have the haste anymore. That's happened to me before. And the second that happens, and you don't have the recursion, if you don't have the minor because you weren't anticipating that, Scions looks like crap when you start looking at your hand. You're like, man, these cards don't do anything. They kind of just sit there. But same thing with the Sid 2 engine. You drop him, you kind of overcommit, but you know full well that you're going to get some benefits out of it because you start pulling out some evokers from your deck. Well, that gets broken. Guess what? You're probably minus 4 CP now. It hurts a lot, but a lot of people aren't really considering that because it's not seeing a lot of play. And it's kind of hard to justify, okay, if I want to use those effects, I got to start using either wind cards or earth cards. So you got to start, if I wanted to do that, I can't. I'm stuck on lightning. And it just doesn't give me that option. But for those who are using those cards and those colors, it's maybe something to start considering because it could be a meta call.
And actually, before I pass it over to you, Okimotto, Heretic Knight Garland is the 5th one. It breaks 4 costs and higher. I don't know if you guys remember that from Opus 5, I believe it was.
Oh yes, the 7-drop AK Brave.
Yeah, the ridiculously ridiculous cards. Yeah, that's and I agree with you 100%, Andy. I think it's something that needs to be explored a lot. I know playing Ice Vikings, Ice Water Vikings or whatever, I was playing instead of the Nidhogg, I was playing the Sephiroth, and then renowing or time aging it to destroy two back row, and that kind of it's doing that early with the amount of cards you draw in Ice Vikings. It's definitely very hindering on someone. Because if you do, because I don't know how some people play, but I was playing with Thaumaturge as well, so I would essentially discard a card and then break two backups. Like, how crippling does that feel, like, having that done to you? It's pretty bad. Okimotto, what do you think?
I'll give you a little mini story about that.
Please.
So before Gen Con, I was actually also testing Spiritus, 2 Nidhogg and a Sephiroth.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do the same thing where I could play Sephiroth and then renew it.
Yeah, it honestly, it really hurts. It's painful to feel, like, to do that to someone.
The problem I had is every time I drew Sephiroth, I was like, man, if you were just a Nidhogg, I'd rather just answer the board and attack. But so that's what ended up happening for that. But another side story, before Seattle, I was actually worried about my minors and my devouts being broken. That bear with me, all right? Bear with me. I had one Dr. Sid in the deck, and I spent 2 hours testing it against Winter.
What is it? What'd you put in there?
Dr. Sid.
Which one?
Okay, so Dr. Sid's the Opus 2 ice backup that I had never seen play.
I don't even know what this is. I have to look this up.
It's basically, if your opponent breaks the backup, they have to break a character.
What the heck?
I spent 2 hours testing that in my deck.
It's not even on FFDECK. It's not.
They didn't even bother, like, putting this. Wow, I didn't even know this card existed.
It's in their beta form. Yep.
That was a pro tip from JFB. He was like, man, if they break your devout, it's gonna suck. I was like, yeah, you're right. He's like, just Dr. Sid. And I was like, you're right. You're a genius. And then, like, I played it, and I was like, it doesn't matter if they kill it because they can just break anything. Like, they're not gonna Hecaton share it with only backups in play. They'll just break, like, a Cactar or something or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wasted 2 hours testing that in the deck because I was worried people were gonna break my backups. It was weird.
There you go. See, it's there you go. Dr. Sid, guys, go look it up. Get your playset. Opus 7 is gonna change.
Yeah. The doctor is spelled out though. It's not DR.
Yeah. I had to find it. I'd never seen this card. It's a hero that I don't own apparently because I've never seen this card.
That's actually going to be, you're going to need this in Opus 7. You actually want to start picking these up.
That's what I'm saying. Get the foils. That's your, your market crash right here. It's.
I have my foil Leon looking at me like, who's the genius who told me to pick those up? Like, it's going to be good, Opus.
Oh, yeah. when we saw Buckaboo, everyone's like, pick up Leon.
Yeah.
Oh, so you guys are the reason Leon's price spiked.
Oh, man. Did we blast that on Triple Triad? My God.
No. No, but man, that was funny. I know we pretty much bought out TCG player, I think.
Oh.
So it was you guys that raised the price.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I picked up more than just a set just because I'm just like, all right, and I can monopolize this.
Yeah, thing. And we hit eBay quick too, man.
Wow. But yeah, to go back to your question about how do I feel about breaking backups, I think it's good to have backups in your deck that break themselves so that you can play other backups that do things. I don't think you need to worry too much about your opponent breaking your backups because there's very niche cards, and a lot of people opt not to run stuff like that because it's not like actual removal. Mm-hmm. So I think it's more important to run backups that you can break for yourself for benefit, like Devout or Minor or whatever.
And I'm glad you. And
Scholar, Lightning and Scholar is a good one. I don't know.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because I did want to ask you guys. I guess the other side of that question is we've seen cards that say when they're broken get an effect. So Thornton and Larsa or like even Firion, the legendary says when you break a backup you control, right? Get Brave and First Strike or something like that. I don't even remember right now. How do you guys feel about those effects? Like Okimotto, if you would.
I don't think they've been explored enough. I think that Thornton has recently been explored because he found his way into the FF2 deck and it works well with Firion. Mm-hmm. And I believe Larsa, The only deck we've seen that in is Josh Guz's deck from Thailand or something.
I never even saw it.
With Drace or something. I don't know, some just Josh things. But yeah, I just don't think they've been explored enough. I think people look at them and they're like, "Dang, that's expensive."
Yeah,
that's cool. Let's move on with life.
I don't know. Me personally, I don't like. I guess especially from when I play water, like I kind of wait for the long game and build out and then do it. I don't like having having to do that, especially if it's mid game or early game. If I like have to break my own backups to search something, then I don't know. I always feel like it kind of cripples me a little bit, like puts me a step back. Like it sets my tempo one turn back. I don't know. That's just me. I agree though that it hasn't been explored enough, and we definitely should, because there's a lot of cards that do that, like Feral Chaos. I used to play Feral Chaos and Renoa, the legendary, just to attack and put all your opponent's board in the dull state or whatever. And then we had the Deletas with the Goomba, or what's the name? Goomba? The little Goomba. Right?
Oh, it's the 2-drop Goomba backup.
Yeah,
nice
backup. Yeah, and it's like you the 3-cost Deleta breaks Goomba, get Goomba back. It's all good, But I definitely think it can be explored.
And then Sidwalk was printed.
Yeah. But Andy, what do you think about those?
So we actually had a card that was really good in Lightning called Fusoya. I don't know if you guys remember that one. That was kind of like the card to break to start doing stuff, and you can kind of like base a deck around it with the Lulu H. That's kind of like our first taste when it comes to breaking our own stuff for benefits, other than the cards that said break to do something. So that's the only version of that I can see that was explored just a little bit further. And then we had the the Lucid Dreaming deck that came out. Dan was this amazing guy who just like thought that I was like, yeah man, we're just gonna put this together. This is pretty awesome cards. You got featured on Meta Potion, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's some other stuff being worked on, but yeah.
So that was, like I said, that's kind of like the first taste of it, and it's not a bad system. Like it's not a bad setup to start doing that, because those cards, when they do that, they're not intended for you to minus. They're kind of intended to show a different line of play, and you kind of can start doing stuff. Now I've been dabbling with that a bit too, and let me tell you, when you recur in Alua to do an S ability again and again and again. It's pretty awesome. So yeah, I'll definitely take into consideration those effects. I feel like they're very good. They just don't have like the support that they need right now, or they're just not explored as much as they should be.
I also think it has to do with the meta, right? Like those kind of decks to run, like for example, Heroic Lulu and Fusoya, you need a meta that allows you to set up. And when you have Turbo Discard and Scions and all these aggressive decks out there that don't give you time to set up, it's kind of hard.
It's gonna fall short.
Absolutely.
It's definitely gonna fall short. I think that's a really good point as well. Okay, well I think we've covered that enough. So let's move on. And I know this has been a problem. I think it was since Gen Con, right? This is the first time we saw the slow playing problem, and I know it's been blowing up like the threads on Facebook and the Facebook groups and stuff. So I don't want to throw names out here, and I don't want to get too personal, but I want your opinion, guys, on how we as players should address this. Like what we can do to kind of like I don't know, make it easier or make it like less of a problem, or
I'm gonna let Okimotto take the reins on this one, but I did get my official Chris Adams polio blanket off the yeah, it just came in, so this is one of those fireside serious talks moments. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I have to make sure to order mine next time, but you're right.
No, I got mine, and I'm gonna go ahead and place it on my lap here. And go ahead, Matt, take it away. I'm ready.
So you're gonna have me throw myself into the fire first. I see how it is. But
I thought is your middle name like Kindling or something?
Kindling?
Yeah, Matt Kindling Okimotto.
Rekindling?
That's
That was a bad joke.
That was a horrible joke.
Reaching.
That was reaching.
Hey guys, welcome to Triple Triad, where we're gonna get thumbs down for the rest of this episode.
But anyways, so I think slow playing has been a thing since Nationals last year. I just don't think it's been as like it hasn't been in the spotlight as much because we haven't had enough tournaments for it to show, right? Like last year we just had nationals, and there was plenty of times where people went to time, either took double losses or forfeited, so they didn't take a double loss. That happened a few times last year at nationals, but it didn't come apparent until all these Crystal Cups started occurring. I don't think it was a big problem in the Petite Cups, but I think the Petite Cups are more casual, so maybe players, like there's less on the line for Petite Cups, so players aren't in the tank as much, so that's probably why it wasn't a thing.
Okay.
But outside of what Square could do, I'll leave that for Square and themselves to decide.
Yeah.
As players, I think something that you should do as a player is, one, get enough reps with your deck so that you know that you can find the optimum line of play in a fair amount of time, right? Like, if you're playing a deck that you don't have a lot of experience with, and you play another deck that you don't have a lot of experience playing against, you're going to be taking a lot longer than you should on your turns, and that's not fair for your opponent, especially if they don't feel comfortable enough to call a judge. Which leads into my second point. You should never not feel uncomfortable. If you feel your opponent is slow playing, you should definitely just be like, hey man, like what I usually do is I'm like, hey man, I don't want to be mean or rude, but could you like speed it up a little bit because it's been taking longer. Normally they're like, okay, yeah, sorry. Some people get offended, but like whatever, that's them.
That's them, yeah. Okay.
And then if they continue to do it, I'll just be like, hey judge, can you just watch this entire match, make sure me or my opponent don't slow play or take longer than needed. And I include myself in it so that I don't like point my opponent out. So like maybe he or she feel more comfortable. Like, okay, they're probably talking about me, but at least they're telling the judge to look at both of us. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of how I approach it. If I know that there's going to be a turn where I'm going to take a little bit longer than I should, I'll let my opponent know like, hey, sorry, this turn's very important. I need to take a little bit longer, and I'll try to speed it up. But like I'm letting them know like, hey, this is going to take a little bit longer. And if they feel otherwise, they're more than welcome to tell me, hey, you need to speed it up. But I try to like let my opponent know like this is a very important turn. Yeah. Most of the time, if you do that, your opponent like is more okay for you to do that like once or twice a game if it's a very important turn.
Yeah.
Another thing too is I think the people who judge the events, they need to be. It's hard because like most people that are that would be quote unquote qualified to judge the events would rather play, right? So you have people who are judging the events who are probably more casual or just like to watch the game in general. So it's hard for them to tell if someone's slow playing, right? They're just looking and they're like, okay, this person might be taking a long time. But you need someone that has experience playing to be like, okay, if you're taking 2 minutes on your first two turns, something's going on. But if you're taking like a minute on like turn 15 and this play is going to make or break the game, then like that's understandable. Like you need judges to be able to figure out what is slow play and what is like actual okay amount of time to spend on a play, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Like I guess I don't want to say like teach them a little better, but I guess a little more knowledge on where to make those calls would be a good idea as well.
Yeah, but I think ultimately it comes down to us as a community to not shun people away from calling slow play out or not making your opponent feel awkward or like approaching it in the right way so that you're not like, hey man, you need to hurry the frick up, like whatever, you know.
I had that bleep button ready. Hold on.
I caught myself. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's one thing. And onto that too, you shouldn't use it to like tilt your opponent. If you know your opponent's not taking a lot of time, but you say it anyways, like come on, don't be a scumbag.
Yeah.
Like some people will say it because they know it'll tilt their opponent. Like 5 seconds in the turn, hey man, can you hurry up? It's like, dude, I just drew my card.
yeah, that's another story.
So like, don't be that person either, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you, Andy.
Oh boy.
Take out the polio blanket.
Okay, listen here, children. Oh man, I think we kind of just we address the do's and don'ts, but we really want to address like the don'ts, man, because that could really just ruin your whole experience with this whole game, and especially if you're playing like you take the time to go drive to a tournament that you're really excited about, only to like experience something like that. But a lot of the don'ts, because you still want to be respectful, but at the same time, you want to get the point across. It's like, really don't be a dick when it comes to things like that, because then you're just kind of like reinforcing some negative attitudes or something. Because I've actually been, believe it or not, called out for slow playing, But I know I've taken maybe like once or twice a couple of turns that were just like really long, but only because I was really stuck. You know, it's like, no offense, I didn't want to take that time, but I was really stuck. Like I know there's a play there, and you know I can see it, but sometimes it's just A doesn't connect to B. You know, but I was verbal with my opponent. Like I'm just like, hey, look, like I kind of know this line of play here, but it's not really connecting. But I do appreciate you being like really patient with me. But at the same time, I'm just like, look, all right, if I don't see it, I'm just gonna go with what I know, do it, and you know, if it means that I lose the game, well, that's on me. You know, I didn't study this line of play hard enough. You know, and that was on me. So I don't want to put anything on my opponent like, oh man, this guy didn't give me enough time. I could have figured it out. You know, F this guy hurting me up. So it's kind of like, you know, you really got to pick and choose your battles, and you got to really be honest with yourself and be like, okay, if you know that you're taking really long, but there was a reason for it, you know, maybe your opponent might understand, but at the same time, like, it's not understandable if you're doing it every, you know, other turn. You just can't figure out your lines of play. You just didn't spend enough time with your deck, and then, you know, you both end up with a double loss. Like, how is that on your opponent's end? You know, like, that's all on you.
Oh, can I say something too?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry. So there was an incident I saw at Seattle. I'm not going to name names, but I saw a player. So I saw a player playing a deck, and he was winning. And I saw him take a little longer than he needed, and his opponent was trying to play as fast as they could. And I personally felt like the player that was ahead was playing slow on purpose, knowing that they were going to go to time, and knowing that because, like, there could have been a turn where the opponent could have turned the corner and won, but he was ahead at the moment, so he was taking his time. And I think there's a fine line between, like, how do I word this? Like, basically, he went to time and insinuated that, hey, you should give me the win because I'm gonna win. But he didn't say that, but he like insinuated it. And the opponent didn't give him the win because the opponent felt like you slow played on purpose and were trying to guilt me into giving you the win. Does that make sense? Somewhat?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Sorry, it's hard to explain. But I think in like that situation, like if it comes to a point where it's a double loss, like almost all the time you should be like both players should know who was most likely going to win and give the opponent the win. However, there is a fine line because if you honestly feel your opponent slow played because you knew they were going to do this so they could like guilt you into give him the win, then I feel like you shouldn't reward them for that, or they're going to keep doing it to other players. Like under that like rare scenario, I think it's okay not to give them the win. But
yeah,
I just wanted to throw that out there.
I think in all honesty, like it's not as vague as people, you know, want to put it. It's very specific for. I mean, even though it's always called the same thing, slow playing, it does have an element of just like abnormality where you don't know exactly why it's happening, whether it be yourself, whether it be your opponent, you know, whether it be certain different circumstances. You know, you kind of never know. It's not really ever the same situation. Just called the same thing.
I think it's most apparent in the top cut because of how it's currently handled, right? Like in Swiss, I feel like people go to time less because they want a winner. But in the top cut, because of how time currently works, if you win game one and you're playing a slow deck, it's almost always in your favor to play slower the second game because then you just win in time, right? Like just how it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is pretty scumbaggy, but like that's just how the game is right now, right? Like you get rewarded, like you're heavily rewarded for winning game one and then taking your time game two, which is very, very wrong in my opinion. But that's just kind of how it is right now.
I agree. I agree with that too. I guess what I want to say to you about it is I really like the points you guys brought up, and I think for me, because I know I've also been like called out more recently too at the what's it called, at the LQs that we've had here. These turns some of those turns are like, and I took like a 3.5 minute turn. I'm not gonna lie, but it was very important for me anyway. I felt like, and my opponent told me, he's like, hey, listen, you're taking long. You know, you might want to hurry up. This is already like a 3-minute turn. And I go, you know what? You're absolutely right. So I double checked everything. Like I ran my last numbers in about like 10 seconds, and then I, you know, finished the play or whatever. But it's, as players, don't be afraid to tell them. You have to tell them, hey, listen, you're doing it. You're taking really long or whatever. And again, even if they take it the wrong way, that's not your fault. like you have to do, you have to get your point across. Like, hey, they're doing it, and if you have to tell them more than like once or twice, yeah, then get the judge involved or get the guy in someone to get involved, because they're obviously doing it like on purpose, or like it might feel like it's doing it on purpose, but you can't feel bad about it. Like, I know a lot of people, it's like, oh, I don't want to call a judge because I don't want to be a a d-bag or anything like that. No, these options are available to you, and you have to exercise them. You can't just say the judge is there for a reason. If the judge isn't judging anything, then what's he doing there, right? And you can't feel bad about doing that, and that's really all I want to say. Like, you just get it done, like address it, point it out, bring it out to light, like say, oh, hey, you're still playing, please. The first time it's like, yeah, please. If he does it again, hey, come on, please. And then the third time is like, all right, judge. And that's it. Like, just, it has to be done. You can't not just let it happen to you. That's not fair. Like, and again, the way you were saying, Okimotto, it's like the game rewards you for winning the first one, and then you can slow play out at the time. I'm sure that's a strategy, unfortunately, people think. And, even I remember even when I was playing, like, fighting games, I would get a life point lead and then just turtle my way back until they would come at me or something like that. And I get that, but we have the ability to like say something here, and it can be prevented. I just think it can be prevented if we just aren't afraid to call it out. And I think that's it. But yeah, you guys
or don't play water.
Or don't play water.
Or Wind Earth. Or any of the other slow decks out there.
Yeah, play Scion mirror match.
Just go aggro on everything. All right, guys. Well, thanks for that. I hope people weren't too upset about us talking about this, but I just think it needed to be addressed here, like on the podcast. But before we go, I do wanna. We did get some spoilers recently from the card of the day. The official Final Fantasies. We have 2 monsters I want to take a look at with you guys really quick. First, let's talk about the Kurel, however you guys pronounce it. How do you pronounce it, Okimotto?
I say coral.
Coral? Like coral? Or like a coral? Like coral the color?
Or coral? Coral? Like, I don't... Yeah, I'm going to get made fun of. It's cool.
I call it Steve Carell.
Steve Carell. Okay, so we have Steve Carell here, 2 CP, lightning, monster, and put Carell into the break zone, choose a forward until the end of the turn. It gains 3,000 power, haste for strike and brave. That's pretty nice. I really like that. And then you can discard Carell, choose one monster of cost 1, break it. You can only use this ability if Carell is in your hand. Andy, what do you think about this card?
Oh man, let's see. The ability to break a Cactuar in your hand just by going blop, you're gone, without dedicating, your Romulus summon, even though it is pretty nice too. This card is pretty nutty, man. I love the plus 3,000 power, haste, first strike, brave, everything. That's a loaded taco right there.
Yeah,
that thing's got everything. Oh my god, plus 3,000. I don't think there's anything in Lightning that actually gives you that much, unless it's like specifically like an S ability or something. It really gives you that much power.
Cyclops, reduces 3, but I think that's the only other.
Yeah. I'm talking about adding. I mean, if you consider like the same forward with Quetzalcoatl, that's kind of like a 4,000
difference.
Differential.
4K power difference.
This is just straight up like, let's make this guy beefy 3K, and that's really what a lot of the Lightning forwards need, because on average they're about 6,000-7,000. So you can buff them up to 10,000, and it really gives them an answer to some of the things that they don't have, because a lot of times they just lack the power. So yeah, man, I'm really excited about this card. Maybe it could be a standard 1 of, maybe 2 of in the deck, but depending on what more Opus 7 stuff comes out, I mean, this thing's looking pretty nice, like a staple in Mono Lightning and other decks.
So if you had this right now, what would you replace? Like, what would it take out effectively? Do you think? Do you know? Like, if you had to say right now off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head?
Yeah.
I would probably actually take out the, as weird as this might sound, I might actually take out the Anthem Lulu, put some of these in there, and then kind of really force some really nutty stuff in there. Now, why take out a whole plus 1,000 when I just said power is, a weird thing, but it's to really throw my opponent off. Plus, it gives you more of a curve if you don't have the 3 cost backups in there, and you start adding like 2 cost stuff in there. Your curve just like goes into a weird direction, into a more fast play. That's just me.
Okay.
I'm weird.
No, that's fine. Thanks. Okimotto?
What would I take out? Or
No.
what
What do you think? What do you think of the card?
I think it's great. I think it's gonna enable things not just for like mono lightning, but it'll enable other cards that I'll just use on random one, like Yida, for example. Like you get to buff Yida 3000 power, which means she does more damage to dual forwards. Or like 6 CP Ramza, he needs to be 10k power, right? This makes it pretty easy to hit 10k power. So like the 3000 power is pretty big. The second thing is haste. Being able to give something haste is good. And then first, second, brave. It's basically like, all right, fire. You had Belias. Guess what?
That's
Lightning
true.
has Coral now. Get wrecked.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of like they're kind of different things, and Belias has EX burst, but like Belias gave you everything you wanted, like all the keywords you wanted, and 1000 power,
and
like
draw a card.
This does you sacrifice to draw a card on this card for more versatility in the plus 2000 more power you get in brave or killing a monster. So I think this card's good. I don't know if it's gonna make like decks off the bat. I think it's gonna be more of a meta card because Lightning, as it is, it's rough, right? If you're sticking to the Alcid package, you're losing like 10 cards in your deck, and then you have all your backups, and then you're probably sticking to like 8 summons. Like finding room for this card and cutting other cards is gonna be pretty rough. So I think unless we see more from Opus 7 that deters away from Alcid, I would love to not have to include Alcid in a Lightning. But
I got you, man. Man, wait for my list. I promise you, we are saying bye-bye to Alcid.
I would love.
Andy's literally taking out. Andy's taking out all the lightning. He's taking out Alcid, Hildebrand. He's just gonna take the whole color out altogether.
Yeah, man. I'm putting cards like name a lightning card that you don't really see.
Yeah, man. The monster.
Yes, that's going in there.
Yes.
Opus 1 Orlando.
Oh, that's definitely going in there.
Hey, shut up, man. Look, right? What's wrong with you, man? That's a good card.
That's what they say.
I'm having flashbacks of Gen Con all over again. Got the helicopter chirping through. God.
All right. We also have the bomb. Put bomb into the break zone.
I'm out of here, man. Forget this.
Choose one forward. Deal it 3,000 damage and deal 2,000 damage to all forwards your opponent controls. You can discard bomb. Choose a forward. Deal it 2,000 damage. You can only use this ability if bomb is in your hand. Okimotto, what do you think about this one?
I think the card reads better than it's probably actually going to play. Like, a lot of people, when they first saw it, was probably like, oh, I can kill thaumaturges and stuff, but, like, not really, because you're never going to have more than 2 cards in your hand, and if you pitch this, there's still 5Ks. But it kills Vikings, I guess. That's cool.
Yeah, you can.
The other bomb is, like, a 1-cost deal 5K, so, like, you're paying 2 more to deal 2K to the board, and on break, or 2K to the board from discarding. Because, like, it's still 5k damage to 1 forward, but, like, 2k to everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is probably not going to... It's probably will go with cards like... what's that standard unit? Ranger, I think is called?
Yeah,
the Fire Ranger.
Attacks deal 2,000 everybody, right?
Yeah, that one. And it'll maybe enable decks like Fire Lightning to, like, discard this to deal 2,000 to a forward, and then play 5-drop Orlando, the good one. And then...
Man, they hurt every time. Every jab, every poke.
Oh boy! All right, Andy, what do you think about this card?
Yeah, I think it was a mistake to bring Okimotto. Hey, never mind. I don't know, man. I'm still not feeling it. I'm feeling fire. I'm just not feeling this card yet. I like that they gave it the old discard Reno from your hand, but. I don't know, man. Just hit some for 5,000 and the other for 2,000. We got to see what the rest of Opus 7 brings. Maybe there's some more AoE stuff, who knows. But as of right now, like Okimotto said, it reads better than what it actually will do. It's just, I don't know. It's bad.
The art is sick, though.
Yeah. Shout out to Kumiko over, characters. His original art for this game, which is good. But I just like, I guess I should have mentioned this, but this new mechanic, hand traps essentially is what they are, discarding. It doesn't even say on your turn, right? It's so you can do this at any point, like either player's turn. for both the Corel and the bomb, which is definitely interesting. They could put the Layak down, and then it's like Layak's one cost, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll put Layak down, and then before they go, or it doesn't even matter. You doesn't not necessarily have to do this before they end their turn, but if you wanted to, haya on their turn. I don't know. Maybe there's gonna be more one cost monsters that we need to get rid of before our turn starts or whatever. But yeah, I think the mechanic's gonna be interesting. I'm assuming every color is gonna get one like this. Kind of like they did in the last set, that they got the ones that on summon they resolve, or when something happens they resolve. Like the bomb, when an 8,000 drops, it would like deal 8,000 to it, or Buckaboo, your opponent discards.
Black Knight.
Yeah, Black Knight, exactly. So I'm assuming every color is going to get a hand trap like this, which is going to be cool. It's also going to open up monsters a little bit, which I'm hoping will change their situation right now. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us today.
Is it too late to add another deck list to my top 5?
No, it's never too late. Go ahead.
Fire Lightning. Watch out for that.
Fire Lightning. Got it.
Oh, that's number 3. Number 2 is still Jordan Denk.
Jordan Denk. Shout out Jordan Denk. Oh, obviously, I'm so sorry. Okimotto, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I'd like to give a shout out to Opus One Orlando. I'm just kidding.
I can keep walking out just now. I think, screw you guys.
Shout out to my wife as always. Shout out to Meta Potion and everyone that supports it. Thank you, all you guys. Shout out to my EU brothers, JFB. Shout out to the Rice Fields. Shout out to you guys for asking me, even though I didn't win. I appreciate it.
Can we get an actual shout? Like, can you shout?
Like what? Like,
let it all out.
Like shout out to my homeboy Andy Carmona. Hey, Jonathan Jordan. Like that.
Yeah,
that was
good.
hype.
That was hype.
Hopefully I didn't blow everyone's ear out.
No. All right, cool, man. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back, I don't know, hopefully after Nats with our next podcast. If anything comes up before then, we'll be here. Say bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
5 guys.
5 guys.
Whoa.
Guys, is it too late to add a top 5 to my deck?